climbing, I'm losing my grip. Storage costs rising, they'll never let me skip. Refunds I'm eating, returns pile up too. Oh, Amazon, what else will you do? I look at my dashboard, my profits erased. My margins are gone, it's a slap in the face. Prime Day's a promise, but it's such a race. How much will I make if I'm replaced? It's a cruel, cruel number. Fees keep climbing, profits torn asunder. Oh, it's cruel, the sellers wonder how to survive when the margins go under. It's a cruel, cruel number. Every month it's something new to plunder. Oh, it's cruel, it's no wonder we're stuck in this game. The algorithm's thunder.
Yo, Amazon's back, and they got a new scheme. Reimbursement slashed, it's every seller's dream. They're digging deep, taking more from the pot. Let's break it all down, expose what they got. March 25, it's a policy drop. They say manufacturing costs, but we know it's a flop. Give us your cogs, they're demanding the price. But if you don't, they'll estimate nice. Nice for them, not for you. Watch your payout shrink. That comprehensive evil is a corporate wing. Lost in the warehouse, damaged on the floor. Now they pay you pennies, not a cent more. Fees on the rise, profits on the run. They don't lift a finger, but they pocket the fun. We're fair! They shout while they cut our shares. Amazon math, man, it's full of errors. Fees, taking our dough. They're stacking the deck, and it's sellers who owe. Reimbursement? Nah, they're taking us down, but we're still here, we don't mess around. Fees, straight to the top. Amazon's game, it'll never stop. Margins tight, but we keep the grind. Sellers unite, we're one of a kind.
I try to sell my product on Amazon, thought it'd be a breeze. But little did I know I'd be stuck with seller support disease. They never seem to solve my problems, just give me the runaround. I'm tired of waiting on hold. My patience is wearing thin, I'll never be found. Amazon seller support, you suck, you suck, you suck. Can't get no satisfaction. I'm out of luck, out of luck, out of luck. You don't care about my business, just trying to make a buck. Amazon seller support, you suck, you suck, you suck.
This one's for the sellers on the grind, getting left on red, wasting all their time. I hit up support, got an auto reply. Thanks for your patience, man, I wanna cry. Inventory lost, my margins are toast. Reps playing tag like the Casper the Ghost. They pass me around, it's a never-ending game. Nobody takes action, everybody shifts blame. My ASIN's down, I'm out of the race. They say they'll escalate, yo, what a disgrace. Amazon seller support, you're breaking my heart. No answers, no fixes, just tearing me apart. Hours in the queue, stuck in the dark. Amazon seller support, you're missing the mark.
Amazon game plan, that is the key. Seller central dashboard, that's where I be. Analyze the funnel, see what we lack, then we optimize. Sellers know it's a fact. I get it poppin', you know that it's lit. Climbing the rankings, ain't no room to quit. I check the data, they notice the stats. I keep the method, that's how you adapt. Metrics are showing, you know it's our cap. Amazon sellers, it's time to react. I'm about that action, I do this with passion. I got them like, whoa, what is this? Huh, whoa.
I don't know, dude. I think everybody's just buying stuff based on reviews and badges or whatever. They don't even know who we are. These customers don't even know the name of my brand. But they keep clicking add to cart like it's part of the plan. They see that Amazon badge and think it's all grand. But yo, they don't even know the name of my brand.
Click, scroll, build your store. Amazon's waiting, what you waiting for? Brand it loud, make it shine. Steven's here to drop the rhyme. Dials, banners, plug and play. Your storefront's live, let's sell a day. Now listen up, I'm Steven Pope. Amazon guru, I'll help you cope. Step 1, get that trademark stamped. Without brand registry, your Amazon cramped. Head to Seller Central, log in quick. Manage stores tab, yeah, that's the trick. Upload your logo, flex that style. You're about to make Jeff Bezos smile. Where pick a template, marquee or grid. Drop your tiles like a branding whiz. Hero image, big and bold. This store's gonna glitter like digital gold. Let's go, build your store. Amazon's waiting, what you waiting for? Brand it loud, make it shine. Steven's here to drop the rhyme. Blue tiles, banners, plug and play. Your storefront's live, let's sell today. Yo. In the trenches of the Amazon game, trying to survive while it's driving me insane. Nobody warns you, they just claim it's passive income. Nah, it's pain. I'm sitting at a birthday, laughing, chilling, next to a newbie Amazon seller spilling. She's like, Prime so smooth, it's a killer. Then tried to sell, now she's stuck in a thriller. Finding products, yeah, that's the first grind. Scrolling Alibaba, losing my mind. Sample suck, manufacturers decline. I'm like, dang, how's anyone doing this fine? Ship it in, pay for the bubble wrap, but they ship glass bottles in padded crap. Now I got hot sauce leaks, refund stacked, customers pissed. Man, I'm under attack. Amazon's a beast, it's a fight, no peace. From SEO to PPC, the hustle don't cease. Think it's passive? Nah, you better increase your tolerance for chaos or face defeat. Trademark wars, brand registry's a scam. They banned my brand, now I'm in a jam. Listings yanked, products ranked and tanked. Lost dogs in the catalog, my account shanked. Now let's talk ads, it's a rabbit hole. 1,000 hours deep, man, it's taking my soul. Weekly negations, bulk sheets for control. Excel's my new weapon, but it's taking its toll. SEO's no joke, keywords in the game. Alt text, A+ content, playing insane. Lifestyle shots, avatars for fame, but the CTR's low, all products look the same. Amazon's a beast, it's a fight, no peace. From SEO to PPC, from SEO to PPC, the hustle don't cease. Think it's passive? Nah, you better increase your tolerance for chaos or face defeat.
Let's go to Mac School. To Mac School. Class is now in session with Professor Pope. They got the SOP, cause Professor Pope wrote the recipe, helping Amazon sellers grow sales exponentially. Amazon's a jungle, but we map the strategy. Brand strategist playbook, it's a guide to victory. Troubleshooting catalogs, you know we got the answer key. Boosting all your rankings, turning sales into a legacy. SOB so deep, you think we studied at Mac School. Every step we follow leads to growth, yeah, it's a golden rule. Stuck on keywords, we'll find the ones that work the best. Using Helium-10, strike distance keywords past the test. Incremental indexing ensures the listing set to rise. From the back end to the bullets, optimization hits the skies. Brand store creation, yeah, we make it shine and flow. A+ content design makes conversions overflow. Need your images on point, best practices in the plan. Alt text and photo rules ensure your visuals command. SEO meets PPC, it's balanced, every step aligned. We'll construct the MKLs that drive rankings over time. Budget caps and bid adjustments, no more wasted spending. Segmentation builds campaigns that sellers can defend. Got a hijacker, no problem, we'll file to take them down. Review requests in action, 5-star ratings come around. Flat file updates, market share reports, it's all in reach. Professor Pope wrote the SOP so sellers learn and teach.
Meanwhile, my Amazon guys on the case, fixing up my problems at lightning pace. Ticket escalations, Mag's the boss. Even Amazon says we'll take the loss. Seller support don't know what's up. Passing the buck when the issue gets tough. They're the official team, but they can't comply. So they say, reach out to my Amazon guy. They're supposed to be the pros, but they can't decode policies and tools from their own damn road. I'm paying fees, yet they bring me stress. But Mag turns my chaos into pure success. Seller support reps, they throwing shade, but then admit, yo, Mag will get you paid. Third-party agency taking the throne while Amazon fumbles in their own damn zone. Seller support don't know what's up. Passing the buck when the issue gets tough. They're the official team, but they can't comply. So they say, reach out to my Amazon guy. So here's the truth, let's keep it real. Mag's the team with the pro-level skill. Amazon sellers, you know the vibe. When support says call Mag, they'll give you peace of mind. Amazon seller support, you can suck my image stack. Sucking is all you're good at anyway. Bezos, hit me up if you want to sell seller support. I'm buying. There's a Jace. Peace.
Never mind. Now I'm here. We're going to be talking about pay-per-click advertising. My name is Kevin Sanderson from My Amazon Guy. I am the marketing and partnerships guy, and I'm here to help you with your paid advertising on Amazon to take it to a whole new level. We already got lots of questions coming in, which I'm super excited to get to here in just a moment. Looks like we got some faces that I'll be welcoming back, as well as some names I haven't seen before. So welcome, everybody. So we're going to get into all of that here in a minute. Sometimes I ask, like, where is everybody from? Describe it with an emoji. So let's do this. I want to know, let's do this. How long have you been advertising on Amazon? So 1 month, 10 years. In my case, it's been 9.5, almost 10 years. It'll be 10 years, I think, in February. So that's about 9.5 years. So just put in the chat how long you've been advertising on Amazon. There's no right or wrong answers. You know, there's no seniority. This isn't a union environment. It's not like, oh, well, I've been longer, so it's better. No, we're all here to learn. In fact, sometimes you learn people that have been doing it for a long time are still looking for what is that little edge. And so my goal here is to help you find that little edge to get you to the next level. So, excuse me. All right. So Viper has been doing it for 1 year and 9 months. Abanoob says 10 months. So got some folks who've been advertising for a little while. You're not brand new at this game, but still figuring it out. But the reality is we're all figuring it out. It doesn't matter how long you've been doing it, how much you have spent over the years. We are all trying to figure it out. In fact, Stephen Pope has been posting some statistics lately, and I wish I had. Oh, I don't have it up. Let me see if I can get to it in this. No, maybe I can. No, it's limiting what I can see. Anyway, never mind. I want to stay focused here, focused on helping you take your business to the next level. So we also have Mahai has been doing it for 2 years, which is awesome. Charles is joining us from Liberia. That's great. Thank you, Charles from Liberia. Thank you for joining us. And then who else do we have here time-wise? All right. We got lots of questions. Looks like everybody wants to get straight into those questions. So I want to get straight into helping you. So, all right, let's get to those questions. We've already got a lot in the queue. So best thing to do is if you want your question answered, ask it now and don't feel bad. Like, yeah, but what if people are going to make fun of me? They're not going to make fun of you. So I'm just going to get to the next question here. So, all right. So probably whatever question you ask, I can pretty much guarantee it's going to help someone else other than yourself, because other people are like, oh, wow, wish I had thought of that. Or at least that person had the guts to ask. So, all right. So we want knowledge, ! Says, hello, Kevin. How do I create a budget plan for ongoing PPC campaigns? Which data do I use when I analyze and perform a PPC audit? Multi-part question here, which I'll do my best to get to as many of those as possible. So this one here about how do I know, like, how much do you spend? Let me just make this as simple as possible when it comes to budget. If you are profitable, as much as possible. Don't run out of budget. Running out of budget is not good if you're profitable. Now, if you are like trying to, or let me take a step back. Think of your budget as more of a guardrail than a driver of results necessarily. Like, the biggest lever you can pull is your bid to figure out, like, profitability, like how high do I want to show up? How aggressive do I want? Your bid is your gas pedal. Your budget is the guardrail on the side of the road, is really the way you got to look at it. So you don't want to just put up a guardrail as you're driving down the road that just cuts off the road itself unnecessarily. So if you think about it, if you run out of budget and it's 3:00, well, you just don't have any more budget. But if you would have been profitable, just basically let it keep going. Now, if you're not profitable and you're using your budget just so you don't spend too much, because you at least want to kind of get the flywheel going. But this question is more to do with ongoing. I would say best thing to do is optimize your campaigns, figure out, okay, what does it take to become profitable, or whatever your goal is. Maybe it's not profit. So if you're supplements, maybe you're saying, I look at every sale as really 3 sales, because one sale will get me 3 additional sales on the back end, for example, if you know your lifetime value of a customer. But ultimately, you just don't want to run out of budget. Now, if you're not profitable, start focusing more on the profitability and start maybe pulling back on some of your keywords, because I hear this all the time. People say, but this is an important keyword, and they'll just think that in perpetuity, they should be going after that keyword with a 3, 4, 500% ACOS. That is madness. Don't do that. Don't feel like you have to just keep doing the same keywords over and over again, just because they have a lot of quote unquote relevance. So you have to decide, this is my example I like to give a lot, is markers versus dry erase markers. And just for fun, go on Amazon, look up markers and look up dry erase markers. Technically, dry erase markers are markers, but they're more specific and much different search intent based on the products that are showing up for markers versus dry erase markers. But people will, in their category, they're selling the equivalent of dry erase markers, which is a little bit more niche, which is great. But they're trying to go after the higher search volume keywords like markers, but it's just not relevant to their product. So you have to look at it as, are you going after the right products? And so your budget should not be the main driver of are you on the right track or not? It should be, are you still going after the right keywords? And then looking at your bids. And so you want to look at your bids. One simple thing I like to do is take the bulk file. So if you do the bulk template, you download that, add a column, take equals, I forget which column is which, but it's like on the far right. You've got basically, you'll take for every row, you would create a little formula for equals whatever the cell is for that, for sales divided by clicks. So that will tell you for whether it be the campaign level, the ad group level, the keyword level, and this is more important at the keyword level, what is your sales per click? So on average, if somebody clicks your listing 20 times versus 100 times, how much money did you make in sales every time someone clicked? Now, granted, you don't make sales every time someone clicks, but we're trying to get at averages. Then sales per click times desired ACOS is theoretically, if your next however many clicks perform as well as the last however many clicks, from a conversion rate standpoint, that should tell you how much you can spend. So you might be spending $2 a click, but you realize if you spent, let's say you had $100 in sales and 100 clicks, that's $1 per click. And if you add, let's say, a 40% ACOS goal, you could spend up to 40 cents per click. You might realize you're way off. And so, yes, you probably won't show up as high for some of those keywords, but that is what it is. And so you don't, my personal opinion, at a certain point, you have to let off the gas a little bit. If you're being super aggressive in the beginning, that's great. But then you have to start letting the customers give you their votes with their purchases, and then use that data to point you to what keywords am I actually going to go after and what bids am I going to go after before worrying about budgets. I know this question is about budgets, but that's my little soapbox about don't spend all your time focusing on budgets when it's really the bids, in my opinion, is where you focus most of your time. All right. So in which situation do I use down only bidding strategy in different scenarios, examples? Me personally, I use it all the time. Down only. So basically, for those who aren't familiar, you've got up and down, where you're giving Amazon, which I think is the default still, when you set up a campaign, that whatever your bid is, they can bid up too. So you may say, this is my suggested bid, but we'll raise it. And then there's fixed bid, which whatever you put as your bid that is your bid. It does not go down. And then there's bid down only, which that's basically like eBay. So if you're probably familiar with eBay, you put in your bid is for a product on eBay is $100, but if the person before you is bidding $80, then your bid might be $83 or something like that. However, their algorithm, I'm not 100% sure, but however that works. And so it's going down from what your bid is, whatever it's going to take you to win that bid. Now on Amazon, it's not purely just your bid. It is also how likely the algorithm believes, or what the data is telling the algorithm is the likelihood of someone to purchase your product. You're more likely to show up. And you might actually get a lower bid. You might be able to pay less than someone who's bidding higher, because you're more likely to get the sale for that particular product, for that particular keyword. That's how bidding works with down only. I personally prefer down only. I don't see a reason to do up and down. And I know some people like to do fixed bids. Mag for the most part does down only. I think fixed mostly if it's like a new product launch and like they really want to get honed in on a particular bid and not go down and try to force the algorithm to let them spend that amount per click. But at the end of the day, like if you can spend less, why not spend less? Especially for ongoing, my personal opinion. All right. So which tool gives the most accurate data on how many keywords my product is indexed for? We use Helium 10. We're exploring other product or other keyword tools as well, but for the most part, like we're using Helium 10. What is keyword graduation? Keyword graduation is when that little keyword grows up and it can move on to the next one. So keyword graduation, technically, which people use, promotion, other things, you take something where it's like you've got auto and broad. So if you have a search term is getting sales and doing well in auto, you might graduate it or promote it into broad, and then from broad maybe into phrase or exact. Now, our caveat to that here at Mag is never negate a good keyword. So if it's doing well, don't move it into exact and then negate it in broad or auto just because you want to just go after the exact. Sometimes it will actually perform better as a broad or an auto. So get the sales where you can get the sales. And if you want to isolate it into exact, then do that, but don't negate it. So that is our opinion. What do you think the benefits are? Give me an example. The benefits are you just have more granularity. So if it's exact, which exact has kind of become exact-ish over the years, meaning it's not exactly exact, but for the most part, you're going to show up for that particular keyword. So purple marker would show up for marker, for example, but maybe you only want to show up for purple marker, so you make it an exact rather than just broad marker. All right, next up, Abanoob says, "Hi, Kevin. I'm glad to see you again." Same here. Glad to have you back for another one. For the different PPC targets for the same keyword, should I keep the bids close, or can I, for example, bid very high on exact targeting and set lower for the broad and phrase target for the same keywords? P.S. You don't need to mention that I should commit one targeting campaign per. Okay, gotcha. So at the end of the day, yeah, I would say at the end of the day, let the data speak where the data is going to tell you what's working, what's not. But initially, I would probably at least a few cents extra on exact versus phrase or exact. Phrase and broad. So maybe your exact is a little higher, and then phrase is a little less, broad is a little less. I don't know how aggressive I would get on the exact yet. I know some people do that as a strategy. I don't see the value in it necessarily, but that's my personal opinion of saying like, hey, I might bid 75 cents on broad, 85 cents on phrase, and $5 on exact. That seems like overkill to me, especially if you're doing fixed bids. Unless you really just want to see like, how is this going to work for this particular keyword if I just really put my foot on the gas. And if you go really aggressive, I would say do it for a shorter period of time. All right. Let's get to the next one here. Another question. I've been running very bad with PPC for my first product. I've created many campaigns and turning the first ones on and off, much on random intervals, and manipulated campaign settings and raised bids 5x for some keywords and lowered it too aggressively for the spending, and was focused on the spend and being top results. So now, after learning a lot, I no longer do that, but I'm still confused. Should I create new campaigns for same keywords or targets, or should I turn on the old campaigns? Specifically, I have sales history on some campaigns. Yeah. So one of the things is don't freak out. Rule number one. Sometimes it feels weird. Like you just feel like I have to do something. And that's a normal response, is feeling like, oh my God, I got to do something. This isn't working. This isn't working. Just give it some more time, give it some more data. Now, to kind of unwind what it sounds like you've done, I would focus on the keywords, the keyword targets, and the campaigns where you have gotten sales history. And those would be the ones that maybe you turn on, and turn off the ones that aren't working. I find it's better to the ones that are actually working to just adjust the bids accordingly and then let the data speak for it. And sometimes we want so badly for markers to show up at the top, but really the reality is we have more long tail keywords like purple dry erase marker for office might work really better for us. We get decent amount of sales and profitably because it's very high intent keyword. Or, purple dry erase marker for teacher, purple dry erase marker, chisel tip, purple dry erase marker. And these long tail keywords probably do really well for us profitably. They don't get us the sales we want, but we're trying so hard to show up for marker, but marker doesn't make sense for our product because it's too broad. And oftentimes, even if we have a product that is specific enough, oftentimes if we're in a niche where, like, let's just pretend purple dry erase markers is a really big product making lots of sales. Chances are, if we have a newer product and let's say we've got 20 reviews, 10 reviews, 5 reviews, 2 reviews, whatever, we're trying to compete with products with 20,000 reviews in some cases. And those will do well at the top of search because it's right there. People aren't thinking too much. They just click on the first thing they see that kind of catches their eye. Okay, it's got a good image. It's got good price. It's got good reviews. Let's click that. Okay, let's buy it. Whereas people that scroll down tend to be more methodical, more analytical. They're thinking it through more. And so I would just think for yourself, what are people doing on that journey and giving it more time? And I know it's probably frustrating, but back to your question, just turn it on, turn on where you have sales history. Don't try to keep reinventing the wheel. I've done this before myself, and I find I have better results when I just stay within that particular keyword. Promote search terms. And that's another thing when we talked about graduation, search terms to keywords. So search terms that are doing well, give them their own keyword, meaning that you're targeting them as opposed to they just show up for markers, because now you're specific to, I got sales for purple dry erase markers for school, and you got sales there. All right. Next up, let's take a look at some more questions we have here. So Javesh Ahuja says, spending a lot on PPC, but still no conversions, whereas the competitors are all selling 700 units monthly. Well, if you want, drop your ASIN into the chat, and I will be more than happy to take a look at it and see if I can make any suggestions. So either give me a link to your product or give me the ASIN, and I'll take a look at it and I'll give you my suggestions. If you're spending a lot on PPC and you're not getting conversions and your keywords are all pretty relevant, then I would venture to say it could be a listing issue. There's probably things you could do in your listing, because at the end of the day, PPC is just a traffic source. It's just you're getting impressions, you're getting in front of eyeballs, and people are making the decision to click. And if they don't click, you're not going to get more impressions. And if they don't click, you're not going to get the sale. And if they're clicking and they're not buying, then you have a conversion issue. And so it depends on where the issue is. I would take a look at your search query performance report and think about impressions, clicks, add to carts, and purchases relative to the competition. Are you better or not as good as? Like, for example, is your click-through rate higher or lower than your competition? So take a look at things like that. How's your A+ content? Another thing you could do is you could run a pick food poll and just have people give you their honest opinion. And it may hurt your feelings, and that's okay because it's not personal. It's things to make you better when people are telling you what's good and what they like and don't like about your product. And remember, at the end of the day, it's not about what we think or whether we think the listing is good. It's about what other people think, especially people who are voting with their wallets. And if they're voting against your product by not voting or by not buying, and everyone else in your niche is getting 10 to 12 sales a day, then it's probably worth taking a hard look at your listing, especially if you are spending on PPC, because that means you are getting traffic. All right. Francisco says, when launching a new product, what type of campaigns should be started first? I say all the above, but I definitely think you should focus on sponsored products and do auto and broad at least. So let me just share my screen here real quick to share with you this graphic that Steven had put on his LinkedIn. So this is the breakdown of spend across our 400 brands at MAG. Believe it or not, auto is about a third of overall spend. I know everyone likes to say, oh, it's all about exact. We're spending about a quarter of our clients' money on exact. And so if you think about it, auto, broad, phrase, and this is all in sponsored products, of course. This isn't display. I'm assuming this is, let's just assume this is all sponsored products, as opposed to brands and display. So auto, broad, and phrase, that represents almost 75%. Exact is roughly a quarter, so about 25%-ish. It's 27.5%. So there's great opportunities in auto, and there's a lot of good deals. Now, auto, especially when you have a new product, it's good to take a look at your search term report fairly frequently to find what are the search terms that you're getting a lot of clicks for and either no sales or sales at a high ACoS, and then negate those as exact. Then start looking through, and you're going to have a lot of onesie twosies, like 1 click here, 2 clicks there. Then you're going to say, okay, is it the word red? Every time somebody has the word red in their search, I don't make sales. So maybe you want to negate as a phrase the word red. So you want to take a look at that, and then have broad and phrase, and then exact. So I would say if you're starting out, especially depending on your budget and how much money you have to spend, I would at least focus on auto and broad and potentially exact. Those would be my big focuses. And then if you also have the budget, and you could maybe go after some phrases as well. Sometimes it shows up differently in phrase, even though theoretically everything that shows up in phrase should also show up in broad and theoretically in auto. But sometimes the algorithm looks at it a little differently in phrase. And so it's worth taking a look at some of the phrases. All right, so now let's get to the next question. But before I do, I just want to remind everybody, if you have questions, drop them into the chat. We do have more questions coming. I have quite a few. I will do my best to get to as many of them as possible. The best opportunity for you to get your question answered is to ask it now as opposed to asking it later. Because by the time we get to the end, oftentimes we run out of time. And so frequently we will run out of time, but not run out of questions. So that means I don't get to everyone's questions. So the sooner you ask your question, the more likely you are to get your question answered. So, all right. Next up, Mahai, who also says hello there. So hello, says, for broad match on PPC, should I lower bids or mainly check search term reports and negate? Also, do you usually negate plurals in exact match? No, I don't usually negate plurals in exact match. Because then you're more likely to also be negating the word itself. So you're kind of, it's a weird one. I don't worry about singular, plural, and exact match. It is what it is. Now back to broad. Do you lower your bids and mainly check search term reports and negate? The question is both, or the answer is both. Both check the search term reports and negate. And so lowering bids, it's lower bids and then check the search term report and negate. So I do both things. So lowering your bids is going to make you show up less potentially. So you might not be in as premium of spacing if you lower your bids, but maybe it's more profitable. Or you're doing really well and you're like on page 2, and you could be doing great on page 1, but you got to increase your bid. So sometimes it's worth increasing the bid. Now, as far as the search term report negating, that's kind of like I was just saying in the last one. You want to take a look at your search term report and see, what are you showing up for? So for example, you want to take a look at, let's say, the last 60 days and what are you getting a lot of clicks for? It used to be people would say like, oh, if you get 8 clicks and no sale, negate it. I'm like, that's not really great advice. So figure out like, what is your conversion rate? So is it 10%? Is it 15%? Something like that. So if let's say you have a 10% conversion rate, that means you get 10 clicks per sale. If you have a 15% conversion rate, it's 8-ish clicks to get a sale. No, that's not true. 6 or 7 clicks to get a sale. So let's just call it 7. So in about every 7 clicks, you get a sale at a 15% conversion rate. At a 10% conversion rate, it's 10. So it's 1 divided by the conversion percentage. That's how many clicks it gets a sale. So double that. And that's one rule of thumb I've heard a lot of people use. And I kind of like that one as well. And I oftentimes use it. So like if you have a product that has gotten 20 clicks and no sales, then I would negate that. If you have a search term with 20 clicks and no sales, I would negate it. If you have a search term that has 5 clicks and no sales, I wouldn't worry about that because maybe click 6 and click 8 coming up. It just hasn't happened yet. So one other thing you can do is this is where it gets a little tricky, that you're looking in smaller windows, and smaller window meaning 60 days. And 60 days seems like it should be a good amount of time. But unfortunately, 60 days is not that long of a time in the sense that you end up with, very long tail keywords, and not long tail necessarily in long tail that they have really long phrases, which maybe that is the case, like a lot of words in them. It could also be the case that you have long tail in that there's just not a lot of search volume. So you might get 2 clicks in 60 days for a particular search term. It's not really enough to action. So what I like to do is, this is not search terms, this is keywords, but go into your targeting tab, and everybody do this. This doesn't work in January and February, but it works progressively better the longer we get to the year. So go into your campaign manager, click on where it says targeting. So if you click on targeting, now you can change the date range. Change the date range to, I forget if it's year to date or this year. Let's just call it this year. So you're changing it to year to date so that you can see everything that's happened so far this year. And you're going to find a lot of keywords that you're targeting that are not performing well, that you haven't done anything with, because maybe every time you go to optimize your campaigns, they get 2 clicks, 3 clicks, 1 click. And now all of a sudden, if you go into the targeting tab and you change it to year to date, you can filter for, the sales is 0 or orders is 0. Either is fine. And then sort by spend. And then you look at this and you're like, oh my gosh, I spent $70 on this keyword this year. It totally flew under the radar, but it made no sales. And then you just turn it off. You could do the same or similar thing with ACOS. So just pick a high ACOS number, like 70%, 80%, 90%, something like that. And then you can decide, is this keyword worth going at a lower bid, or do I just turn it off? And so then you could sort by ACOS, highest to lowest. for year to date in targeting tab. And then that's going to help you find a lot of keywords that just aren't performing well at all. And you will find opportunities to improve your sales there. So, or improve your profitability. So that's another thing I would do in addition to what you mentioned there. So, all right, moving on to the next questions. Francisco says, how many keywords should we put on a single campaign to make sure the campaign budget gets distributed evenly? This is debatable. And at the end of the day, the true answer is it depends. And I'll give you some actionable information with this though, but it depends on what is the potential spend for those keywords. So if you're going after yoga mat, let's just assume yoga mat spends a lot. That might be something that we might even want to put in its own campaign. But if it's like pink yoga mat for whatever, it's a longer tail keyword, you could do, we recommend a mag 5 to 10, no more than 20. Personally, I have some products that don't get a lot of sales and I have a big catalog. And so I don't mind increasing the number of keywords that I put in a campaign, because at the end of the day, like none of them are spending all that much. The point of having fewer keywords in your campaign is if they are spending a lot, you don't want less performing keywords eating up all of your budget and you're not showing up for keywords that you want to. So by having smaller, ideally somewhat semantically aligned keywords, meaning keywords that are similar and people searching for that term have similar mindset, you put those together, 5 to 10 keywords per campaign, no more than 20. That's our general philosophy. And then if you have really long tail keywords and a big catalog and you just don't want to deal with the mess of having to administer all that, then you could go a little higher than that. But that's my personal opinion. All right. So Sahil says, I'm hitting $300 a day sales daily, but suddenly sales dropped from the last 2 days, $100 and no change in listing, nothing change in campaigns. Why? Sometimes it just happens. The last 2 days for me were pretty good, but it all depends. So sometimes you have to take a look at what else has happened outside of, my campaigns. So were your products doing well for back to school? Some places today is the first day of school. So, or yesterday was the last day of summer. Yesterday was a holiday in the US. So yesterday was Labor Day. So that means people are barbecuing, they're out with friends, they're hanging out with family, they're doing whatever. Oftentimes they're not buying things. So if you have office related products, things that people might buy in a work setting, even if it's not an office product, you still might have lost some sales due to the fact that people on a Monday might have been buying stuff, but they weren't in the office and they weren't thinking about buying products. So that could be part of it too. So that would be something you might want to look at and think about. But just keep in mind, always keep a long-term view. Never worry too much about 1 day or 2 days, because sometimes it's just, there's no explainable reason why there's a drop. And then sometimes it just takes off another couple of days later. Sometimes I think a delay in reporting. I don't know that for a fact, but I believe that to be the case sometimes. But, if you're finding your sales drop is really low for a long period of time, now a couple of things you could do, take a look at, if you've been selling for more than a year, you can go into your business reports and take a look at, just Google Labor Day for last year, figure out what day was Labor Day, and then just kind of take a look at that same pattern for Labor Day weekend last year and see, did you have similar results, similar things happen? And that'll give you some insight. All right. Francisco says, when should we add a keyword as a negative type? So it's really more search terms that you're doing than keywords. So keywords, if they just don't perform well, I just turn them off. So you're really looking at search terms. So that way you can leave the keyword on and figure out what search terms aren't converting. So my personal opinion is, and I mentioned this in another one, take how many clicks it takes you to get a sale based on your conversion rate. So 1 divided by conversion rate, that's clicks that it takes to get a sale. Double that, and that's a good idea of no clicks equals worth turning off, or super high ACoS. Like if if you had 30 clicks in one sale and you had like a 270% ACoS, turn that sucker off. And the way to do that would be if it's a search term, meaning you're going after markers and dry erase markers wasn't performing because you don't sell dry erase markers, then either you phrase negate dry because you see every time dry erase marker shows up, you don't do well, or you negate dry erase marker as a exact, or both, what I was mentioning there. All right, so next up, we've got Viper 1213. I basically need to relaunch some products that went out of stock. I know rules 1 and 2, rules 1 and 2 meetings, Stephen likes to say, never run out of stock. I think that's what you're saying there. It was some supplier issues. They arrived September 19th. Should I wait for Prime Big Deal? I think you ask this question every week, and I'm wondering if you're hoping that you must have something that you're thinking of. I'm curious because I feel like deja vu with this question. So if there's more info you can give me, let me know. Now this dives into a little bit here. It says, also on Prime Big Deals Day, should I run a best deal or just the Prime exclusive only promotion? The goal is to generate so much sales as possible, boost my ranking, and sold out of one. Are you familiar with Amazon KDP? Not familiar with Amazon KDP. I mean, I know it's Kindle Direct Publishing, but not as couldn't help you with the strategies there. Now, as far as the other product, and I would, again, I think I've said this the last couple of times, and so maybe you weren't here when I answered this the last couple of times. I think so. I'm just trying to think through what I had said before. Don't wait on Prime Big Deals. Like the fall Prime day, week, whatever they call it these days, always does worse than the July one. I thought the July one this year was lackluster. It was 4 days. I think it's just a chance for Amazon to talk about stuff. So could you run Prime exclusive deals, which you do have to pay for them now? Sure, why not? Test it out. Now, if that's going to prevent you from, excuse me, if that's going to prevent you from being able to run coupons later, if coupons is part of your strategy, I would not do it. So I would just make sure whatever you do for Prime Big Days or Big Deals Day, whatever you do there, make sure that it does not interfere with your ability to run other deals or coupons in the future. I don't think Prime Big Deals is going to be a big deal. And so could it be a way to spike the algorithm? Sure, but I don't think you're going to get the big bang for your buck, so to speak. Whereas just push it. Like just lower your price in general, potentially, to spike the algorithm. Let that be the marker of doing well. Go hard on the gas on PPC, but I wouldn't worry too much about deals on Prime exclusive deal day, which there's probably people that very much disagree with me, but I would love to see the numbers of people who make a big deal in recent years out of Prime Day, especially the fall Prime Day, and how that does for them. So that's my personal opinion. So point being, I would not wait on inventory or launching or anything to do with Prime deal days. I mean, maybe run a Prime exclusive deal just to do it that day, but I would not let that day be your strategy. That day, I mean, like I would imagine if you were to look at a graph of sales for your product, you were going to be sadly disappointed. I could be wrong. If you were to think like it's going to be a spike, it might be more of like a speed bump at best, meaning like just a little bitty It's more of a molehill than a mountain. If you're looking at a graph, I believe, unless you have history that your product does really well on prime day type days. All right. Tushar says, how to sell saturated beauty products and supplements profitably. Great question. What it comes down to is, I'm assuming you're thinking about, based on this, are you thinking about selling a product, or are you have a product you're already selling? Two different answers depending on it. So let's assume you're picking a product. You want to find a product that maybe is on the up and coming, meaning like if you were to pull a sales graph for that product, that niche, is it a market that's trending upwards? And don't look at huge spikes. Sometimes spikes are because something was viral on TikTok, and TikTok trends change quickly. As quickly as they come in, they go out. And then people start focusing on something else. So, and sometimes it's hard to know, is it just because it was a TikTok trend? You are looking for more steady growth, like, oh, okay. Like a couple of years ago, I think people were starting to talk about Korean cleansing oil. That was like a big thing. But just keep in mind, as soon as something becomes a big thing, other people are getting into the market too. So health and beauty is tough. Supplements is tough. So what are the big supplements? Now, supplements is a little bit tougher. So it comes down to, when you ask about profitably, you have to figure out what is your lifetime value of a customer. So beauty and supplements both tend to be products that people buy multiple times. So if you think about it, if you were selling hydration powder, because I put a hydration pack in my drink there. If you're selling hydration powder, ideally people are buying it multiple times. They're not just buying it one time. So the multiple times, if you know the data tells you people buy on average 3 times, great. Now, when you think of a sale, you think of acquiring a new customer as 3 purchases, 2 more. So if the average person buys it 3 times, you theoretically could take whatever your ACOS is and divide it by 3. So if you have a 60% ACOS, in essence, you have a 20% ACOS, because as long as they keep coming back and buying, not from paid ads, but you should have good tacos, total advertised cost of sales. So hopefully that makes sense. And then, so it's really going to come down to picking the right product. Is it a niche that's going in the right direction? The niche is not just based on some trend. It's not because nobody really talks about Dr. Oz these days, but whoever the Dr. Oz is, are they talking about this product suddenly, and then when they stop talking about it, it goes away? Or is it, because there's this big research coming in? So you're just going to have to take a look at that. All right. Next up, Sadiq AMZ LLC says, hey, Kevin, I'm good at sponsored product ads. Well, I'm glad to hear that. Good. I like the confidence. But now I want to learn sponsored brand and display ads. Is it difficult, and how are they different from sponsored products ads? I'm really confused. Okay. Sponsored product ads is like, for the most part, you're really just jumping the line to get into a sale on Amazon. So let me share my screen. All right. So if we're talking about, you're trying to figure out sponsored display, sponsored brands, think of it this way. If you're a customer and you're like, all right, I want to get since I mentioned it earlier, a yoga mat. You're used to going on Amazon and you're like, oh, I want this one. I click on it, I buy it. Most customers have no idea that in very small words, this is sponsored. It's an ad. And it mimics all the others. Even though it's like trending now, it looks like it's just part of everything else that they're selling. more results. Okay, that's organic. To the customer, it's all fine. Now, what you want to look at is like sponsored display. This formerly was called headline ads. This up here at the top, these start to perform not as well. These are a little higher up the funnel. So if you are selling a can opener and you have very tight margins, you don't want to necessarily go after, you can test it, but you don't necessarily want to go after sponsored brands. Now, in this case, like see here, like they're selling an $80, $100, $150 exercise mat. So in there, they can spend a little bit to get the customer because they want to get in front of more people. Because oftentimes too, if the product is a little higher price, people are doing more shopping and there's more consideration. So this is kind of the consideration stage. So they're trying to drum up demand for their product itself. And that's where sponsored product or sponsored brands come in. Then another sponsored brand placement is this one right here, the sponsored brand video ad. So this makes this like, especially if you have a product that lends itself to what's the word I'm looking for? Needs a little bit extra explanation of what is it. Now, in this case, we know it's a yoga mat, but what they're trying to show you is like, oh, okay, it's great because you can put where to put your hand. I don't know if that's a pain point for people with yoga mats. I don't do yoga. But at least they're showing like, okay, it's easy to roll up, it's easy to carry. So like, what are those pain points? And you're communicating that ideally in your video. Sponsored videos used to do really well. They don't do as well as they used to just because a lot of people are employing them. But that's your main thing with sponsored brands. Now, another thing with sponsored brands is there's different ones. Some of them you can click on and they go to, like, see how this went to their listing. Some of them will take you to their storefront. Don't do the storefront ads. Because if you think about it, there's just another layer, unless like you have a high priced product and you're really trying to get people to your high priced product to consider it. Then maybe you consider sending it to the storefront. But when in doubt, especially when you're first starting out, try to get as many people as you can to your listing itself, not into other places. Now, sponsored display. So if I click on here, sponsored display can be potentially something like this here. Could be a sponsored display. It could also be a DSP. This could be display or DSP. This one I think is also display. So these are good because these are ones potentially that you could do what people will call a defensive strategy, where you take your other products. You can't advertise a product on its own listing, but you can advertise your other products on your other listings. And then so potentially you just bid high. And this is something people will do to try to eat up those spaces to at least prevent someone else from taking a sale from them. And then a more offensive strategy, a strategy on offense, is you do sponsored display on your competitors' products, just like as you might do ASIN targeting, which would oftentimes be these here. So hopefully that makes sense. Now, sponsored display, because it's kind of like they've already kind of made the decision, it doesn't perform as well. So I would say, by and large, you want to spend at least 90% of your ad spend on sponsored products, and then brands and display might be 5 to 7 and maybe 2%. Sponsored brands 5 to 7%, and sponsored display maybe 2%. So somewhere in that ballpark, and that mirrors more or less. I think we posted it was like 89% sponsored products, 9% sponsored brands, 2% sponsored display was across all of our brands at MAG, all of the spend and where we've spent it over the years. And it was very, very, very heavy on sponsored products. So if you're good at sponsored products, still focus not 80-20, but 90-10% of your time and effort and your spend, and then sponsored brands and sponsored display are really more to get people in that consideration stage, and focus on it more if you have, health and beauty where you have multiple products that you might sell for one sale, meaning that you have a lifetime value of that customer, because they'll come back and buy again and again. Or you say to yourself, well, I have a more higher price product, whether it's $80 or $1,000 or whatever the case is. And so people are shopping around. So I just want to stay, top of mind with them. Then branded display would definitely be something you'd want to work on. But at the end of the day, sales are made on sponsored products. All right. Next up, we have Sahil Milani says, am I getting traffic, but not getting conversions? All right. So mentioned the ASIN. So let's take a look and see if I can figure out that ASIN. This person said they're getting sales, but not traffic. So, /DP/B0D77S3VFS. Okay. Let's take a look. All right. So not a bad image at first glance, 100% genuine leather. It comes in a nice box, so that's nice. But like, what do people care about? So let's just take a look at leather wallet. I'm assuming this is for men. All right. So notice they're more showing the product open. So, I think I have this exact wallet where they're showing it flipped open. They're showing it like where this little flip thingy is down up here, and then where it's flipped open. So you kind of get a sense of like, okay, how many spots do I have in the wallet? How many other things? So here, the merchandising, I would say still have the box. Like what pain points do they have? So looking at yours, like 100% genuine leather, probably not the thing they're really worried about at this point in time before even deciding to click on it. So I would probably show the wallet more and show it open so people can get a sense of like, this type of product or image, I would say is probably what you want to show, but without, these little bubbles. And then you can have like the box in the background. The box might say, what is it? RF. This would probably be a good one. Like maybe have this little graphic here on your box. So you got the product open. Don't worry about this bottom part here, but like maybe instead of genuine leather, 100%, maybe have, the words, RFID blocking and the graphic on the box. Maybe you still have genuine leather, but maybe it's genuine leather wallet, because genuine leather, 100% what? Like it's the product almost hides in the packaging. I would probably do lighter packaging. If you have, let's say, light brown packaging and it shows up in a black box, no one's going to complain. I would look at what you're putting on the box here that you want to convey, and maybe it's RFID blocking, genuine leather, large capacity, like maybe include some of those type of keywords on the box, and show more of the product and the product open. And so sometimes people are like, but can I get away with having things show up on the box and the box isn't what people are going to get? My favorite example, and Amazon never lets me down with this one. So if I go on toothpaste I can pretty much guarantee you're not going to have a yellow stripe that says 3-pack. But this is the biggest offender here. This has been this way for at least a year and a half to 2 years that I've been using this example. Colgate pack of 6. Now, in their case, the pack of 6, because people already kind of know what Colgate is. They don't have to sell people on Colgate. But the fact it's a pack of 6 is a big selling point because they sell 20,000 units of this a month. And I bought this myself. And I can promise you it does not come in a moving box that says pack of 6, the Colgate logo. It comes shrink wrapped. And you can even see other people took pictures, and this is what they got. And to her, it was Giad, which probably means good, but 5-star. And you look at like everyone else that took pictures that shows it's, just shrink wrap 6 boxes together, 4 or 5. And I guarantee the loss of a star had nothing to do with the packaging. Now, if it's a giftable product, which leather wallets might be, but I don't know that people are necessarily even buying it based on the box. So I would say you really need to look at your click-through rate and your conversion. You mentioned here your click-through rate is now 1%. So that's better than it was 0.1%. So you've made improvements there. Maybe the A+ content needs to be perfect gift. Like, what are we conveying here? You might even say like handcrafted if that's the case. This is good. Card storage. I mean, these are good images here. I honestly, if I was looking for products and I saw this box, I don't know that this would sell me. This might detract me, this image here. So I would say work on the main image. It'll probably help you get even better click-through rate. 1% click-through rate is pretty good, but you're probably going after very specific keywords, I would imagine. So that way you can get more broad with the keywords you go after. And I don't mean broad match, but I just mean not so specific. All right. And then I could probably get to 1 or 2 more questions here real quick. Tushar says, what to do when suggested bid on keyword is too much, 35% of the product price. Then don't bid it. At the end of the day, if it's one, is your product, can you raise the price of your product? Amazon suggested bid on a keyword, unless you are the one who asked about beauty and supplements. So maybe that's where this is coming from. So you might have to look at it as like, okay, how many units am I selling over the life of a customer? And so if they're buying 4 times, then divide by 4. So 35% of your selling price would be 9%. But that still means 9% of your selling price. It would still mean you got to convert really well, because if you have a 10% conversion rate, you're still at a 90% ACOS. So hopefully that math made sense. But you might, one, don't worry about the suggested bid, and relevant keywords might mean that's not a keyword to go after just yet. That might be one you have to work towards. Like, you need more reviews, you need more sales history before you can go after, especially if it is a shorter tail keyword and a very specific keyword with a lot of search terms. You might have to go after much more focused but long tail keywords for your product. And then also just remember, the suggested bid is a suggestion, is the way I like to phrase it, because Amazon, at the end of the day, this is their number one driver of sales and profit, and that is PPC. So just keep that in mind. All right, next up, Francisco says, have you seen good returns on targeting holiday keywords such as Halloween deals, Labor Day specials? Tried experimenting with keywords, search terms like this? No. Like, thing to keep in mind is, like, if you have a product that is Christmas related, potentially, I used to go after like gifts under $20 or something like that around the holidays. It's so much more saturated than it used to be. I don't. So unless like you are selling jack-o'-lanterns, then maybe Halloween related keywords would make a lot of sense. I don't know that there's a Labor Day keyword that would make any sense. Because people don't really think about Labor Day stuff. I mean, you could try. That's just for fun. Let's look up Labor Day deals. This is a complete mishmash of products. And it's someone that's searching for this probably wants a very, very, very steep discount. And they want something that's going to save them a lot of money. So, I mean, you have towels, sunglasses, tablets, wallets, neck warmers, microfiber towel. There's a lot of towels, bath mats, lipstick, surge protectors, massage guns. I mean, like it's all over the place. So keep in mind, they're not looking for something specific. The less specific they are in what they're looking for, the less likely they are to convert. And the more they're just window shoppers, and window shoppers tend to click on stuff and not buy. So I would not go after those keywords. All right. And then, let's do one more. How accurate is the Amazon demand forecast? I haven't had this product last Q4 to compare it to. I don't want to run out of stock in Q4. I have found they've gotten to be surprisingly pretty good. Now, I have lots of products and none of them sell huge numbers. So, I might have a product that, during the holidays, like the month of Christmas, might sell 600-700 units. Then I have other products that, might sell 10 during the holiday month, like Thanksgiving to Christmas. So I have found them still to be pretty decent, where I might have some products where I have too much in stock after, or I run out a little bit on some. It's hard to say when you have one product, if you only have a product or two, depending on how many products you have. It can at least give you a ballpark. And if it's your first holiday season, I would say your goal is to be in stock for the month of December by early November. Try to do that. And then by Thanksgiving, have enough to get you through February. And if you think of it that way, you should have plenty to get through the holiday season, so that if you start running out, you just send in more product. Now, one thing I will say is Amazon every year will say you must have your product in by X date in order to be available. That to me is like a suggested bid. It is their suggestion. And at the end of the day, Amazon, I understand where they're coming from. They don't want all the product to show up the week before Black Friday, and all of a sudden they don't have the labor or the capacity to get everything in. So they want to know, what are we going to be dealing with? And so they oftentimes will tell you, like, you have to have it in by X date, which is, I'll say, a good practice to do. But like, if it comes down to sending stuff 2 weeks after that because you're afraid of running out, versus not sending it in at all and missing out on the holiday season, I would send it in. So because I've heard some people over the years, like, almost like that is the gospel. Like, thou shalt have product in by November 3rd, or there's just no chance. That's not true. Now, the closer you get into the holiday season, they start shifting some of their workers from checking in to fulfillment. And so you're more likely to run into issues with product not getting checked in at all. Like, they don't scan that the shipment has arrived, or it's harder to find an appointment if you're sending in, LTL shipments. You can get away with parcels sent in and checked in quicker, I have found over the years. But also Amazon's shifting people to now do fulfillment from check-ins. So you're more likely to have products waiting to be checked in fulfillment center transfer status, where they're moving it between fulfillment centers. And, they are less likely to have as many people loading the trucks from one warehouse, from like, let's say a cross-dock warehouse to, the final fulfillment center. And then checking it in at the other fulfillment center can be a little slower too. So you're going to retain fulfillment centers transfer, but again, better to have it in there than not, in my opinion. All right. So with that, we have done paid reviews on product, and it is 2 days of posting reviews on product, but it's still not reflecting. When you say paid reviews, I hope you mean Vine and not paying people to do your reviews. There's a lot of things on Amazon that are gray. One thing is black and white is do not do anything that would manipulate the review process. So if you ever notice on a lot of our content here at MAG, we don't really talk about reviews hardly at all. And we don't talk about anything to like kind of manipulate the system. Oh, you are talking about Vine. Thing about Vine is there's just not a lot of accountability. Sometimes you pay for them to do the review. You send them the product, just forget. Now, I think ultimately they're held accountable by Amazon. Like, if they don't do a certain number of views, then they just maybe you're locked out of the program. But I have found just not everybody's necessarily, and this is a common complaint people have about Vine, is that you pay for these reviews through a legitimate channel like Vine, and not everybody leaves a review. And sometimes when they do, it's not fast. And that's just par for the course. So if you're doing lots of reviews on Vine, just know that you might not get all of them you paid for. And that sometimes those reviews won't show up quickly. And it's not necessarily waiting for it to reflect. I mean, if you think about it, ultimately you're sending someone a review. They're supposed to not just like, oh my God, I just got it, immediately type in. It's like, you used the product. Was the product any good? So it comes down to how quickly were they. All right. So with that, this was a fun chat. And if I didn't get to your question, join us again. My colleague Noah Wickham will be hosting a live stream on Friday here on this channel. So make sure you're subscribed if you're not. And with that, everybody, have an awesome day.